At this point in the offseason, it's pretty much guaranteed that Kevin Durant is out of Phoenix, and the Suns are 100% going to benefit from this. But that's not even the main thing that I'm worried about, right? The Suns need to trade Devin Booker immediately. This team cannot afford to continuously be mid, continuously just hang around the play-in tournament, or even get into the first round and just get obliterated by whoever's at the top. This team needs a full reset, all right? And I know a lot of Suns fans aren't willing to let go of Devin Booker. I understand. I'm one of those fans who aren't willing to give away or let their star player go away to another team. But this is something that just you're going to have to go through. Like, Suns fans, I'm sorry. This is just something that is going to be inevitable at this point. And Devin Booker is due to get this massive extension, like 2 years, $150 million, something like that. That would make him the most paid player per salary, I think, in the NBA right now, if he wasn't already signed to a deal. And I personally, if I was a Phoenix Suns GM, I wouldn't want to pay him that. Like, I love Devin Booker. He's one of my favorite players, one of the most talented players in the league today. But I'm not willing to pay Devin Booker $75 million just so we can get bounced in the first round. Like, that's not happening. And on top of that, I'm not willing to hold on to people like Bradley Beal and just surround the both of them with just mediocre talent. One of the best things that happened in the 2022 offseason was the Utah Jazz just completely blowing it up. The Mitchell and Gobert thing was not working. They've been eliminated out of the playoffs for like the past 3 or 4 years. I believe there was even 1 year where the Jazz were the number 1 seed and they still got bounced in the second round. By that point in time, the partnership between D. Mitch and Rudy Gobert had run its course. They tried everything, so they decided it was time to blow it up. And you look at the Utah Jazz now, they have literally, like, you could argue they have some of the brightest or one of the brightest futures in the entire league right now. And all they really need is to draft like a really good player in order to build around, or, trade for somebody that they could build around. And I didn't even mention the possibility of them trading Lauri Markkanen, which is still an option. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that the Jazz could do, and the Phoenix Suns could follow this exact blueprint. Because the truth is, Kevin Durant is at a point in his career where he's not going to command the amount of insane value that you traded him for. You're probably going to still take a loss with whatever you get for Kevin Durant. By the time they traded for him, he was already in his second prime, while he was entering like his early to mid 30s, and he was still playing relatively good basketball for his age. You traded him for like 3 or 4 first round picks, Mikal Bridges, who was then flipped for even more first round picks, Cam Johnson, who's on every single contending team's radar, and all that netted you was a first round exit, a second round exit, and a missed playoffs. Meanwhile, you got Devin Booker, who's like in his late 20s right now. He's about to enter his prime, which is like the peak of his career, and he's already burned like 8-9 years in Phoenix, and it hasn't been a total failure, right? He made the NBA Finals. They had that great season in 2022 where they could have made it far. Devin Booker has shown that he can elevate his game in a playoff setting. Wherever you trade him, you're going to get top tier value. You could trade him to Detroit, where they have a bunch of young talent that they could give Phoenix and that they could build around. They have, they still have their draft picks. I believe a team like Orlando could use Devin Booker as well. They have guys like Anthony Black, Cole Anthony, There's even a possibility of them trading Franz Wagner, who's still relatively young, and you would have a backcourt of Jalen Suggs and Devin Booker, which would be up there with one of the best Eastern Conference backcourts. And there's even the possibility of the San Antonio Spurs trading for Devin Booker as well. They could get Stephon Castle in the deal, who's somebody who I think has a lot of potential. And the Spurs have a treasure chest of first-round picks that they could give up in a possible trade. You even have a team like Houston who, even though they're linked to Kevin Durant right now, there's a chance that if they strike out with Kevin Durant, they could possibly end up trading for someone like Devin Booker, and they have a bunch of young talent as well. Like, I could see Tari Eason being in a deal along with like Dylan Brooks and a few first round picks. The main person that I could see Houston giving up is obviously Jalen Green. That's been the main guy that doesn't really fit in with what they're trying to do. And I've seen so many Jalen Green trade packages. I feel like Houston would be the best possible option for Booker, though. But if the Phoenix Suns just decide not to do it, if they don't want to risk losing Devin Booker, then what would be the point? You know what I mean? What would be the point of just keeping him around? You're going to pay him even more money by the 2028-29 season or the 29-30 season. He's going to be getting paid $70 million a year. Who's going to want to take that contract? I would much rather just deal with the second apron implications later on if I'm a team like Houston or if I'm a team like Detroit where I'm trying to win right now. I would rather just deal with the implications of Devin Booker's contract later on, because by that time my window would probably be closed. And either way, I mean, who would be around Devin Booker? Like, you would have Bradley Beal, who's steadily declining at this point. He's like in his 30s, mid 30s, something like that. And the guy has the most unattractive contract in the entire league. Like, who's going to trade for him if you even try? Not to mention, he has that no trade clause, and there's no indication that he wants to go anywhere else. It seems like he's going to stick around. So it looks like the Suns are just stuck with him. But you got guys like Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, Nurkic, I believe is still there. Or actually, no, they traded him. Like Cody Martin, Micic, Bol is still there, I believe. Like, this team is just cooked outside of their big three. They would be so smart if they traded both Durant and Booker and just completely reset and got a fresh slate. Maybe there's a chance that there's a team out there that's desperate enough for a star player that they trade for Bradley Beal. Like, I could see a team like Miami doing something like that, because they honestly have nothing going for them right now. Aside from the few young players that they have, there's a chance that they could give up one of them for a Bradley Beal in order to, be more competitive in the Eastern Conference. And the other thing I'm really worried about too is Matt Ishbia, because I feel like he's going to try and hold on to whatever he's had with dear life and is going to ultimately be the downfall of the Phoenix Suns. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, Devin Booker, if he does want to stick around, I hope he understands what he's getting into, because realistically, I don't want to see him complain and then request a trade in the middle of him having that extension, Like, you can't have it both ways. Either you take the money, which I won't blame him for taking, but you can't then complain about your team being bad. Yeah, maybe you can try and ask the front office to get more pieces, but at the end of the day, you don't have draft capital. You don't really have any enticing players on this team besides your star players, and you ultimately decided to waste your career away. Like, I feel like if they trade Devin Booker now, then he has a 10 times more opportunity of becoming an NBA champion, or even just getting back to the mountaintop of the NBA Finals, because you got teams like Detroit out there who were competitive this year, who really needed a guy like Devin Booker to put the ball in the basket. Now, there's a chance that they're going to lose some defensive pieces on their team, but that's a risk that certain teams are just going to have to take. You can't hold on to everybody. And Jaden Ivey is a very young player who has upside. He could become something for the Suns. It's a guy like Ron Holland could be something. Even if you include someone like Isaiah Stewart or maybe throw Marcus Sasser in there, they could be quality players for the Phoenix Suns down the line, But the name of the game should be stockpiling draft picks. It should be stockpiling as much talent as possible and just building for the future. The rebuild doesn't have to take forever. It could just be maybe 3 or 4 years of you being mid to bad. And then you finally, you draft somebody who's extremely talented, Like, if the Suns trade, I believe, both KD and Devin Booker, there's a chance that they could go after the number 1 pick in 2026 or 2027. Who knows? And it's surprising to me that people aren't really talking about the idea of Booker being traded, because the Kevin Durant trade rumors have been dominating the NBA media sphere for like the past few months now. And on top of that, the NBA Finals is going on. So people aren't really worried about the Phoenix Suns trajectory. But it is kind of interesting when you really think about it, because at the end of the day, this does have the potential to change the landscape of the NBA depending on what the Phoenix Suns get in return, I'm just pleading that Matt Ishbia doesn't mess this up, because I know the situation that they're in right now. The Bucks are in the same exact situation where you have a star player, you have that inevitable trade that's going to happen, but you just don't know where it's going to happen. Hopefully, the Bucks are smart. Hopefully, the Suns are smart. I would probably put my money on the Bucks getting more in return though, because Giannis is a better player and they're just a better managed franchise. But it is what it is, you know. I think the main fear I have for the Phoenix Suns is that they're gonna keep Devin Booker just to, you know, sell tickets, because they don't want to go through that phase of just being bad, you know, which I kind of understand, but at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. It's not worth wasting Devin Booker's time and wasting the opportunity that you would have at the draft, you know. But that'll be it for this video. Hopefully the Phoenix Suns, you know, learn from teams like the Chicago Bulls and even teams of the past that held on to star players for too long, like the New York Knicks with Carmelo Anthony. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe for more videos, and I'm out. Peace.